Welcome everyone to the Simulation Frequency. On today's episode, we're going to be breaking down a video I saw about what somebody had called a $1 billion scam, grift, what have you. And I cover grifts on my channel too, to a certain degree, but this is all about other things that I openly speak about on my channel. So I'm ready to jump in and kind of contest and maybe explain some of these interesting things I saw in this video, because I'm not averse to exploring all sides of the coin. Like, I don't think that my way or the highway. I like hearing the critiques. I like hearing people make fun of it. It makes me laugh because in all reality, it just seems like one big cosmic joke to me somehow. Yeah, so he calls it the $1 billion scam, and it's quantum mysticism's fake physics, which we're going to get into some of it. Let's see what he's got to say. I saw a bunch of different YouTubers he posted on here, and I'm familiar with every single YouTuber that he posted.
Quantum mechanics.
I know all of these people. I have seen all of them except maybe for that one blonde girl. I am not that familiar with these TikTokers that are like these quantum manifestation folks. I'm more on the YouTube, so more so I would know all of those, but I know all of these individuals, like these two gentlemen here I'm familiar with. I know him. This is Deepak Chopra. That's Dr. Joe. And the other gentleman is the School of Greatness.
Quantum physics, you might be asking.
And a lot of people critique Dr. Joe, and I think he brings it up later. Dr. Joe is not technically a doctor of like medicine. He's a chiropractor, and the school, I guess people think, is questionable.
Yourself. Why did so many spiritual self-help guru types become interested in physics? There were scientists like Sir Isaac Newton who described the world based on what they could directly observe. That framework, which is now known as classical mechanics, is very good at describing the behavior of everyday objects. But when objects get either very small or very fast, classical mechanics starts to fall apart a bit. And that's where quantum mechanics comes in. The word quantum comes from the Latin for amount. And in physics, a quantum refers to the smallest chunk you can break something into. For example, a photon is the quantum of light. We can't break light into a chunk that's any smaller than a photon. And while classical mechanics...
He's making sense with all the stuff that he's saying here. Not going to dispute any of this stuff.
...describes the macroscopic world, quantum mechanics tries to describe how matter and light behave at microscopic speed.
So it's, again, how we always talk about on the channel, smallest molecular structure.
Very, very small objects like electrons and photons are described by a wave function that can produce what are called wave-like effects, such as interference. But when we measure these things that behave like waves, and therefore they should be diffuse and spread out, they show up at a single place and a single time. In other words, they look an awful lot like a particle. This tension is known as wave-particle duality. And on a macroscopic level, we can't see this because everyday objects have very, very, very tiny wavelengths. And more importantly, because observing wave-particle duality usually requires very controlled conditions. And when we start interacting with the environment, it tends to mess things up. Day-to-day life are different from the rules that seem to work at the microscopic level.
Right. And that's the part that nobody really understands. And a lot of people, we try to make sense of this in this community of how it would relate, at least I do, to how we create in this reality, how to create reality like reality creates reality. That's really what I'm after, so to speak. And when you try to understand it from all of these different aspects, it can sound insane to some people with some of the theories that we come up with.
This can sound downright freaky. A very famous example of this is Schrodinger's cat, which is a thought experiment that illustrates something called quantum superposition. Then there are more speculative ideas like string theory, which models particles as these tiny one-dimensional...
which I believe is true. Because if you think about something vibrating at the smallest molecular structure, then the whole thing with like people saying vibration, this and that, everything would technically hold a vibration. Like a thought has a level of vibration to it. And I'm not making that up. I'm pretty sure you could probably go to renowned scientists and scholars and schools, I don't know, and see that that is the fundamental truth, that everything is vibrating, fast moving thing, if you will.
Mechanics with gravity. Once you've gone that far, it's really easy to fall down a YouTube rabbit hole. You start learning about many worlds theory, you fly straight off the deep end.
I definitely believe in many worlds theory.
In the 70s, there was this group of young physicists and other researchers who began meeting informally at the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory, go Bears, to argue about what quantum mechanics meant, and to discuss a bunch of ideas that mainstream physics mostly ignored at the time.
I really didn't know that this was a thing. This is pretty interesting to me that there's some sort of...
They called themselves the Fundamental Physics Group.
That's hysterical. That's hysterical.
Fascinated by parapsychology.
It takes strange people to start to want to become interested in this most of the time, because you are looked at as like a weirdo if you're interested in this kind of stuff. And if you think about it, is that on purpose? Is that built into the nature of humanity to think that things that are kind of fringe or strange, to shy away from it because like a fear-based thing, and many people will end up busting on it, making jokes. Like for example, like Professor Dave, he would rip into all this stuff because it would be like, and math and evidence and proofs and evidence. And in my opinion, unless you have like this, and I'm not suggesting anybody do this, and I've talked about this before and I'll continue to say it, unless you have like an experience with psychedelics or something of this nature where you actually touch the other side of reality, where you are entangled with, or you are tangoing with other entities on the brink of this reality, then suddenly things start to make more sense to you. But usually when you don't have those otherworldly experiences, you think a lot of things like this are just not possible. It seems like more and more scientists and people that are actually partaking and experimenting with some of these things do start to believe in God, believe in universal consciousness, believe in oneness. They start to change suddenly their opinions on this very rigorous kind of tunnel view of life. That veil starts to become lifted, and they start to maybe see a little bit more than they usually wouldn't. Normally people will say things like on the other side of this fence where, oh, they'll tell you you just can't see it because you don't understand. But there could be a level of that going on if you do not allow your neurons to fire in such a way that would create a new neural network to be able to perceive something. Could it be that you're actually not perceiving what somebody else perceived, that they have trained themselves to see or understand? Like for example, like I made videos before about seeing the sim, or we've talked about plenty of times luck, that luck is not something that is just this blowing in the wind thing, that you create your own luck, so to speak. And many people would think that this was just not actual true reality, that it is delusional, and that you shouldn't be thinking in like these fantastical ways, which I understand to a certain degree. But there's also the flip side of it, where the brain does need a level of delusionality, and there is some place neutrally that you can stand in between all of this with an open mind and questions to be able to expand your thought patterns and what you think is possible for the future. Because think about it, back in the day, think about if Steve Jobs would have rolled up with an iPhone in like the 18th century. They probably would have killed him. In 16th century, he would have been like beheaded or something of this nature. They would have thought it was pure witchcraft, alien technology from the pyramids, etc., etc., and it wouldn't have been accepted. They would have wanted to have steal it, to take it for themselves and to figure it out, and to potentially think that it was demonic. Who knows? There's all kinds of things that the human psyche, that the subconscious will do to attempt to keep you protected and from expanding outward sometimes. And this is why it's great to have curiosity and novelty, and understand that the more you start to look at these things, you start to have these otherworldly experiences, so to speak. So most people will think this is like kooky.
They hoped that quantum mechanics might eventually explain psi phenomena like telepathy.
And here's the thing, it's going to explain that, because everything is connected. Like once you realize that, like once you have this like fundamental understanding that it doesn't matter, it's all connected. I can talk about anything and connect it back to this somehow.
Or psychokinesis, and one member of the group wrote the Tao of Physics, which
All religions point back to this, all philosophy, like it just doesn't matter. Like it's all entangled. It will all point back to it somehow.
attempted to draw parallels between these elements of quantum physics and Eastern spirituality.
It's all one. It's you don't like I feel like we're past that point.
Reality is really weird when we get down to the bottom of it. Who knows? Maybe it's quantum. Can start to sound like an appealing explanation for people when they really don't understand what's going on. Because
fair enough. I understand what he's saying there.
I really found that out while preparing for this video, and it's often very counterintuitive. And because of that, it is a absolutely wonderful dance partner for pseudoscience.
Right, because I also feel like it's because we're never going to figure it out because the simulation is always going to keep one step ahead. The universe, it seems like it's this complex emergent pattern that will never stop emerging and patterning out, and we're always going to be one step behind to be able to figure out exactly what's going on.
They do not know the details of quantum physics, and its actual findings already sound pretty out there, so it's really easy to attach even.
And he's admitting right here, it already sounds out there. And people don't want to admit that creepy fact more. They don't want to expand on that. They want to look at that and say, okay, there's this weird, spooky thing going on, but let's not really expand upon that. Let's kind of bucket that into the most kind of materialistic Newtonian science that we possibly can. Let's not try to step outside of the possibility and expand our horizons on what could be potentially next in science.
And wilder claims to those things without them seeming out of place. It's also a field where we're just still learning a lot, and there are a lot of unanswered questions. And the phrase
and you would think that we were so smart and so advanced that we would be finding out these questions, and everything that's going on with CERN and them smashing together these particles, they're doing all of this for a reason. This all is producing energies and is producing different fundamental understandings of the universe, potentially down to when the Big Bang happened and how it happened.
Not sure yet is often taken by bullshit artists as permission to just make things up.
I know these folks, obviously everybody probably knows, I think this is Gwyneth Paltrow. I know she's involved in some of this stuff. And this other guy is the Mind Valley owner, I'm pretty sure, Vishen, I think his name is. He touts a lot of this stuff too, which I've listened to a lot of his stuff. People are multimillionaires off of the fact that, yes, they are selling certain things, but some of them haven't. Some of them have kind of started their own businesses and became very wealthy off of themselves, off of that prior to, and then kind of rolled in these new agey kind of packages and deals with this, throwing like summits and parties. And I know that does make them a lot of money. You can't deny that. But some people really do get a lot out of this. It depends on what your level of understanding, and if you're just going and then getting real hyped up and then getting depressed afterwards and not doing anything with it, or are you doing these kinds of things for fun because you're fun loving and you do these kinds of retreats all the time, it's your gig, you like traveling, you like meeting new people, and every time you go you level up your life, you make what, like $20,000 a year. Some people do claim to have this type of effect over these retreats where they're gaining large sums of money over what they used to. So there is turnout for some of these for a reason. Otherwise, people wouldn't pay money for them. Am I saying that every single person does this? No, there's a significant amount of people, and that's what you have to understand. Everything in life is a pendulum, and once you start to understand that as well, exactly, things like where there is a scam, there's something to be pulled out of it and to be understood from it. So I'll still watch it. So it's the same thing with this. You can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater just because you feel like all of these people are scamming. Like the guy he has on the screen right now is Bob Proctor. He also touts this, but Bob supposedly took these principles and created this massive company of a cleaning company. His company in millions initially, I don't believe was built off of the back of these principles. He used these principles to build himself up, and then he acquired a cleaning company, and then he, like, quadruple whatever, turn that into a multi-million dollar business. I do believe that is the story. And then through that also, he realized obviously teaching this would be lucrative. So he started another business where he earned probably even more money teaching this, and then growing his audience and the people underneath of him to teach this style too, because it's almost like a Bob Proctor house style of quote unquote manifestation. I like what Bob has to say. He can be motivational, but there's no reason to pay into any of his programs. You can just listen to what he says on the tube and it's good enough, in my opinion.
Technical terms, a lot of theory that doesn't have any testable claims attached to it, and ideally.
And I don't know what he means about testable claims. A lot of the evidence in the community would be all anecdotal evidence, but that's the thing. It's hard to test these types of scenarios where I'm saying I'm trying to achieve X, Y, or Z, and then it ends up happening for me, and all these weird things fall into place to have me have that thing happen, if you know what I mean, to have me have that experience. Things will shift, people will show up, different things will happen. So it's all of these quote unquote what people would say will be synchronicities. In my opinion, it's that whole multi-world theory where you're just continuing to shift into these different timelines where you're experiencing those quote unquote things to be able to shift you into that specific experience that you may have already lived out a million times. Because here's another thing, nobody can prove that they've lived this life already or that they haven't lived this life already. They can't prove that they've not lived other lives before. Nobody really knows if they have or haven't done so. Most people, if they start to go within and really do the work, will start to find that they're just not really sure. They could have been here before.
Paid course.
That cat kills me. That is funny as hell. He is funny.
Over time, we've learned more about how physics works at the quantum level. But that hasn't stopped personal growth types from making all kinds of ridiculous claims.
If we realize that everything material is an illusion, then who is creating the illusion? Are we participants in the creation of the universe?
Well, and like that, I understand where people are like, this sounds crazy, but all he's trying to say is, we talked about this before, we can't see everything, and that's for free. We know this. You can't contest that. That's proven. Like, scientists know this. Like, you should be able to just self-identify that you can't see most things. When you see things under a microscope, when you actually go and study and look at all these weird gross shit under a microscope and realize that you're not seeing that, and do you understand that there's probably so much more that we do not have the microscopic lens to look for? And then what makes you think that we can see all frequencies, that we can see all levels of different vibrations? We don't have the materials, we don't have the lens, the body cannot interpret. We don't have the different mechanisms and modalities to produce those things into material existence for ourselves to be able to physically see. You have to admit this. So he's saying that it's all an illusion because we don't really know. So I get what he's saying, but it sounds crazy sometimes because, especially coming from certain individuals, he actually got into, I think, an argument with the E-file guy. And what's weird about all of this stuff is that I heard the E-file guy talk about quantum and affiliate things to physics and waves, and he was talking about the observer effect, I'm pretty sure, with Chopra. So I don't know if he was doing like crap shit with him or whatever. Like, somebody tried to say he was in the files. Like, talking about this, that, and the third. And if that's true, not cool.
Language and terms borrowed from physics as a kind of Trojan horse for metaphysical nonsense. A great example of this is
Yeah, I understand what he's saying, metaphysical nonsense, but like, I don't know if these people really believe it's metaphysical nonsense. You might believe it's metaphysical nonsense, but there's been years and years of tradition of this stuff that's in all of these like ancient books, all of these ancient writings, these secret societies. I can't even name all the secret societies. There's so many different things that point to this information that they try to quote unquote hide it or express it in different ways. Even the Bible, so to speak, speaks about this. So if you are religious at all, you kind of buy into this mysticism stuff as well.
Deepak Chopra and his concept of quantum healing. This is his, to be clear, totally bullshit theory that people can use their mind to age and reverse. Another is
And he says that that's totally bullshit. And I get what he's saying, but there's people that are teaching people how to age and reverse and all this stuff, I'm pretty sure. And the thing is I do believe to a certain degree you can entrain your body to listen to what you want to a certain degree. It's about a system. It's about creating systems and patterns. And I think that there's a level that we can get to where we can heal ourselves because we have the pharmaceuticals in our body to do so. And it's about getting to the right place to be able to have the body know what to do, because the body has done amazing, miraculous things that seem like miracles, and it's been proven. There's been plenty of cases where people miraculously heal or are able to heal themselves within so many days, or don't end up dying when they're supposed to, etc., etc. And there's documented real medical cases of this stuff happening. Whether or not you believe that that's possible, to just again dismiss some of this stuff completely, why can't people stay neutral with it? Like, what could possibly be done with this? Why does the placebo effect work? You're not going to talk about that study at all, because those have happened and people have gotten better off of those. So you can't deny that kind of thing. And if you do, to just be like, it's total BS. Like, there's a level of some truth in it. You just have to see it, if you will. Otherwise, if you continue to program yourself into thinking that all of this is bullshit, you will continue to see bullshit, and you will never see anything that would be potentially beneficial or helpful to you to be able to even help you create your reality the way that you want to, because it all plays a part. Of course, he'll talk about it later. He understands that there's goal setting and all this stuff, but there's another side to this.
big references to quantum mechanics as a justification for the law of attraction, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. Since then, the word has cropped up just all over the place. In the next 12 minutes, I'm explaining exactly.
I know this guy too. He's really well spoken, and he seems like he turned around his life or whatever. But again, I'm pretty sure this is another person, which I would say, like, did you earn your money teaching these principles and concepts to people? And I'm pretty sure he did. But it sounds like these people wanted it. It wasn't like he was pushing it. It sounds like he just talked about what he was doing, and people were like, hey, can you come talk? Because they just liked the business principles. And sometimes it does boil down to that for a lot of these individuals, where it's not even about this mysticism side of it, where all you got to do is implement like a couple of quote unquote self-help things that would really be, at the end of the day, retraining your subconscious mind through new belief systems and new behavior systems and neurolinguistic programming. You'll basically retrain yourself. But that's all we're really doing when we talk about some of this stuff to a certain degree. We're reconnecting neural networks, but there is another side to this. There's a funkier side to this that can't be ignored.
Exactly what quantum manifestation is and how to use it to shape your reality.
Every part of my
I've heard this girl before. I don't consume her content, no tea, no shade. I do all kinds of crazy stuff on my channel too, but she really focuses on, like, I think what would be like the feminine side of it. She calls herself like a feminine quantum queen. I'm not sure. I think it's something of this nature where she's trying to teach women how to quantum leap to their best feminine life, and I'm about all that too. Like, that's cool, but I don't really like focus on that, or I'm not somebody who kind of is just about trying to do like maximum feminine things. You can see that her background is very beautiful and curated to look expensive, and I like love that for her. But that's also feeding into this whole thing, which of course, I'm sure she's fabulous. I don't know, I'm not sure how she's made her money, so I can't speak to any of that. I've not watched that long of her content or that much of it or know that much about it. What I'm saying is that I've seen everybody's content around the block, and you just have to use your own discernment on who you feel like is actually doing you a service and who could be doing you a disservice.
How quantum physics works and how to apply it to my life.
I've witnessed clients double, triple, quadruple their income.
I've seen this TED Talk. She's the same way, where it's just telling you that people have changed completely their lives once they start to incorporate some of these things, and some people don't. It's a probabilities game sometimes with some individuals. If you start doing this and it doesn't work out exactly the way you want it, sometimes people just immediately give up and stop. And it's not about like the fact that you're stopping, because technically you're quote unquote manifesting at all times, you're reality shifting, you're doing the thing at all times, because at every moment you're breathing. If you're breathing, you're fucking manifesting, or whatever, so to speak, excuse me, because you're animating yourself to be alive in the simulation, so to speak, right now through the action of the consciousness coming down through your avatar. So, and there's all kinds of people now saying this. I actually noticed that Chase Hughes finally has said we're living in a simulation. I am shooketh.
Using these quantum tools.
So that's when I came up with the idea for quantum field theory. For most people,
And these people, I don't watch that other gentleman stuff. I'm not sure if I've ever seen him. He looks like a Australian guy, I think, or something, UK or whatever, where it's like a lot of those folks, I've not really watched them too much, but they're into quantum healing. I don't talk a ton about quantum healing on my channel, but it helps people. So it's like the placebo effect or whatever, or it's just you get so in tune with yourself that you are able to, get over, heal. What food, it's like you almost get like this intuitive packet download, quote unquote, is what they like to call it, where you know what to eat, you know how much to sleep, you know what exercises to do, you know what regimen of certain supplements or vitamins and minerals you need to take, and suddenly your body heals. Something like this, right?
They're unaware of the quantum field. And if you're unaware,
And technically everything is a field. There is a ton of fields. The scientists have proven this. That's what always people want to argue, but there are fields out here. Everything is a damn field.
it doesn't exist for you. To say something that's probably obvious to you if you clicked on this video, there's no evidence for any of this.
I don't know what he's saying when he says that, because there is evidence for some of it, and there is evidence potentially for all of it. It just might not be in the way that he initially assumes that it should be, or that he thinks that it should be presented, which I get, but I just talked about a bunch of ways that we could collect evidence to make a lot of this more tangible. I've done a ton of research in this field already. So once you've had a psychedelic experience, and I'm not talking no baby shit, I'm talking rock your socks off, blow your mind, you've seen God's face, okay? Then suddenly you start acting different. 2, you dive deep into this. You really go deep, not 1 or 2 days or 2 weeks for a video. Start researching it. Start reading stuff like Michael Levin's work. Start reading Einstein's work. Start reading all of it. So, he does the Schrodinger cat experiment, which is cool, but start heavily researching the observer effect and the double slit. Start heavily researching entanglement. Don't just scratch the surface, because that's what you're doing here.
Just technobabble, and it's used to make nonsense sound scientific, and it drives people who study physics up the wall.
I get that, and I'm sure a lot of them can check these people for the shit that they're saying, and I'm pretty sure he checks like Chopra here or whatever. But here's the other side of that coin. Why are there now a ton of scientists coming out being like, there's God, this is a simulation, this and this and that and that? Because it's starting to come out and they don't want to admit it, because people like this will start to take like a huge big fat shit on them, because we don't want to look at the other side. Can we keep like a neutrality that there could be a possibility to this? And I understand that there's grandiosity in these people, but it's recognizing that and using discernment, and again, not claiming that everything these people are saying is complete trash.
There are all of these videos of physicists trying to explain physics to Dr. Chopra. They're some of my absolute favorite videos, and the dude is just absolutely convinced that he knows more about physics than they do. So what's your question?
And to whom?
Maybe to Deepak to say, would you like to have a short course in quantum mechanics sometime so that we can straighten out your slightly misuse of quantum notation?
Physicist Murray Gell-Mann coined the phrase quantum flapdoodle to refer to the misuse and misapplication of quantum physics to other topics. And
That's actually funny, quantum flapdoodle. I haven't heard of that. I probably do a lot of flapdoodling then.
this flapdoodle seems to be everywhere. Now, there are probably some instances of the word quantum being used defensively in a personal development context. For example, people use a quantum leap as a kind of useful metaphor, even if it's fudging the exact meaning of that term a little bit.
A quantum leap is basically where you move from one state to another. And so as a
I've seen this girl. I know who she is as well. I don't really consume her content that much. I've watched a few of her videos. I think like a few years ago, I liked a few of her videos. But for the most part, she is also to one of those like feminine empowerment type things where she's showing you how to be like your most highest sexy self and all this stuff, which again, I get, and that's really awesome for women. But I don't focus on that on this channel, where I'm talking about like quantum leap into your like best, sexiest life and stuff like this. And there is something called quantum jumping. Like there is excitement of like electrons or whatever, and they do jump. So this is a real thing. And when you compare this to, if you do believe that you could potentially jump timelines, it's really more grandiose than it would be. You could jump a timeline by making a huge decision in your life to like sell a car and buy a RV and move across the country. And that would be your quantum jump to your next trajectory. And then when you did that, suddenly you hit the lottery, or, your great aunt, whatever, died and gave you $1 million, and you can live. It's like the series of events ends up happening for you because you just are shifting your entire life by the set of decisions and actions that you quickly take to do something. That's usually what happens with those quote unquote quantum jump things or quantum leap. And I get it, those meditations just as much as the next guy. But of course, it can sound crazy and grandiose, especially when people are like, okay, you're just making decisions. Why are we calling it a quantum jump? But that's what it is. Technically, it's an excitement, even in the quantum world, where something, it excites and moves to another state. Same with us. We excite and move to another state. I excited my ass from Philadelphia and it moved to Florida. I quantum jumped, so to speak. But no, we use this in crazy ways. I understand that to a certain degree, but it is something that can be understood and used and can help motivate people to make huge jumps and changes in their lives. And the quantum jump part comes in when you do those quote unquote things, all those synchronicities, if you will, like I was talking about, start to fall upon you, where if you wouldn't have created that jump, quote unquote, those decisions, those actions to move on to that new state, you would have never had all of those new blessings, what they would be called, fall onto you. So you would have never had that jump over to all of these new experiences that you're now eligible to have, because you suddenly realize that you have this potentiality to do whatever it is that you want, that you don't have to listen to society, etc., etc.
Common and popular example of this is the law of attraction, and particularly The Secret. If you are somehow not familiar, The Secret is a 2006 documentary based on the self-help book by the same name. The film is basically a series of interviews with so-called secret teachers are made from pure energy. Second, like energy attracts like energy. And third, thoughts become things.
So he ends up talking about The Secret and the law of attraction. Now, listen, I get what happened with The Secret. She made a quick buck with that, didn't she? Now, I mean, she made a lot of money off that. There's everything. There's a movie, there's a book, there's all kinds of crap. But she basically tapped into ancient teachings, so to speak, and made it more accessible to the modern kids nowadays, and it blew up. And it's really only one piece of the puzzle. The law of attraction is not the end all be all. It's, again, all connected. It's all a part of the same web. And if you believe in the law of attraction, that it works for you, then it will. The law of attraction, as he explains it, people and their thoughts are made from pure energy. We are made from energy, if you think about it down to its smallest molecular structure. Please tell me what else we are. Like, I get that we're also flesh and bones, but when you look down to the blood, and when you look down to the flesh, it starts to break down. It is no longer solid. It breaks down to what would be the string theory and vibrations. And then energy attracts like energy. And I get what that's saying. And there's different variations of this, though. Like, for the example, the universe, the way it's created, a lot of it has to do with gravity, and gravity is pulling things down towards it. But it's not that it's like attracts like. It's more as if there is an algorithmic pattern that is creating that thing to do that, to fall that specific way. There's a pattern to be fallen into, if you will. And it's realizing that it's not just about like energy attracts. Lastly, he has thoughts become things, and they do. Depends on how you say it and the way you're interpreting it. For example, let's bring back the iPhone. The iPhone was a thought in Steve Jobs' head, and then that thought became a thing, right? Because it became the iPhone. If the thought never occurred to create an iPhone, the iPhone would have never became a thing. So it really depends on how you're trying to say this. Of course, if you're trying to claim that you're just thinking and then out of thin air things can materialize, I don't know, that can potentially, I feel like if you train yourself, eventually that can potentially start to happen for you. Even the one I think I forgot to tell you guys, I even had a bank account that popped up that had $2,500 in it that I had no idea existed in this whole, and because I was doing like an experiment with money out of thin air. And one of the things was I found like $1,500 in unclaimed money that I had no idea that I had. I thought it was only supposed to be like 300 or 400. I think maximum I thought it was supposed to be, it was like 600. I had $1,500 sitting there. And then suddenly somebody told me that I had like a lost bank account or something, like a lost IRA. And I tapped into it, and I ended up having $2,500 in this IRA. Out of thin air. I don't even, to this day, I don't know where it came from. Nobody can tell me what job this came from. And I have all of my 401ks and Roths. So it's really trippy to be honest with you, that happened. And then I told you I also was able to get some bonuses that we get throughout the year. And one of them ended up being the highest that it's ever been since at least I've been there. So those 3 different things ended up happening in a very short amount of time when I was doing the money out of thin air experiments, amongst other things. Thinking about a Coach purse. I wanted a crystal Coach purse, and I got a crystal Coach purse for free. It was like a $400 bag for free. It was gifted, and I didn't even ask for it. It was just given to me. And there's so many other things. Like, I find money on the floor all the time, and I'm not saying I find $100 bills all the time, but I found tens. I have found money back in the day, lots of money, but recently when I was doing this specific exercise, I find quarters all the time on the floor. I just find various amounts of money because I'm training my reticular activating system to look for money out of thin air, and it starts cropping up, but other people start to come into play to help me find the money out of thin air, and I don't even have to prompt them. It's not like I'm like, oh, I need money, and because I don't need any money. I'm doing very well, and I'm very happy with where I'm at in life, and it's just, for me, extremely experimental at this point.
This means if you repeatedly visualize an outcome and you think and feel as if it's already true, and you eliminate some of your limiting beliefs along the way, the universe will deliver. Much like Dr. Chopra, it uses some vague claims related to quantum mechanics.
The problem is that this has happened for me, and I was able to achieve some crazy things that normally might have been much more difficult, or people kept claiming were not possible, and things were so on the money for me. Like, I would want a certain amount of money. I'd be like, I want 125,000, like whatever it was, it would be right on the money. I want 50,000. It would be whatever I said it was. It was insane. It's too many anecdotal evidence, but in my head it's too much. It blows my mind every day. Sometimes I actually like draw tears. Like, there's I'm shaken to the core.
Here's the core of it. It has long been known that matter or physical objects are also just packets of energy at the submicroscopic quantum level. And so, as your thought...
And do you see how he says this? He says it like really like busting on us, and I get it. I really do get it, because it is funny. I like how he's got all the things flying around. But I'm also a conspiracy theorist. We all know this. Are you indoctrinated to make fun of this, and you'll never say it any other way because you're too indoctrinated to attempt to see the weird side? I can be shown evidence and change how I think. Like, because I'll have like this innate feeling that washes over me. Like, I just know, if you will. It's just my intuition. Like, when I see something, I can feel it. I know it. There's just something to it. And if I was shown something and I needed to change how I felt some reason, or like it just made me, I would come to grips with that. It's not like I would hold on to it with dear life and make it seem true because I have to for some reason. But that's what it seems like happens with a lot of these people that are just so anti-quantum.
Radiates out and attracts the energy and frequencies of like thoughts, like objects, and even like people, and draws those things back to you.
That's funny. I mean, thing is like, there is something called intention here, and if you just thought about certain things and just you automatically attracted those thoughts, that's not how it works, and we've talked about that.
Understanding or a deliberate misrepresentation, I really can't tell, of physics, and there is no empirical evidence.
I don't personally think it's a deliberate misinterpretation. I think people really truly believe this stuff, and the other people are on this camp where they think you're a kook. That's what it boils down to.
That supports the secret. The law of attraction is considered pseudoscience. But if you're inclined to give these people the benefit of the doubt, a fair question is, where did this idea come from? Why do so many people think their thoughts and their energy can directly alter reality? The simple answer is that this is a misunderstanding of what's called the quantum observer effect. I've already mentioned one of the better known examples of this, which is Schrodinger's cat. If you don't want to get through my understanding of the science here, so I hope that I communicate all of this in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, look, he couldn't even get it. And this is Schrodinger's cat. And the thing is that I'm not going to go through his Schrodinger's cat.
We just don't know it yet. This is where it gets really wild. Because in those microscopic quantum situations, superpositions, all of those possible positions the thing could be in, actually interfere with each other in a way that's either this or it's that, just doesn't explain. It really does seem like both things are true at the same time.
Yes, because there could be potentially multiple realities happening, and that's why they can't explain it. Because the cat is dead in one reality and alive in another. And it depends on who observes it. Again, it does not have to be a human to observe it. It could be a machine. It just means any interference with what's happening, something will change it, because it seems like, in my opinion, it does not want to be definitively known what the probability or outcome is going to be. It is a set of algorithmic outcomes, and those outcomes don't start to quote unquote collapse into what that possibility could be until the observer is introduced. And yes, it would be the observer of whatever modality. And it seems crazy because at that small molecular structure, we don't understand what's going on, but we are affecting things at the subatomic level. I can promise you that.
This is completely brain melting to think about.
That's why he's saying it's brain melting to think about. It's like, is it that you don't want to go there and explore these topics and potentially find out that what you're arguing against could potentially be true?
The most famous example of this is the double slit experiment, and I'm not going to get into that one because the video is already too long. Okay.
And I've talked about the double slit experiment a million times. That's why I should just get the tattoo already, The Observer Effect. Is that a movie? That should be a movie.
Superpositions exist in theory, but measurements can only have a single definitive result. So if the cat is both alive and dead, when does it transform into being just alive or just dead? A common shorthand answer is when it's observed, which takes us to another big question. What's the observer doing exactly? And the observer effect is the idea that we can't measure something without physically interacting with it. The word observer is actually a bit confusing here because it's really more like the measurer. It doesn't need...
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. Anything can observe it and be measured, quote unquote, measuring it, looking at it, taking note of it, whatever, like having some sort of camera or whatever watching it from a distance. Like, it doesn't need to be a human.
If you check the pressure of a tire on your car, you're probably going to let a little bit of air out. But this is taken to the max in quantum systems. Quantum measurement is incredibly specific and extreme. We're talking about these tiny, tiny, tiny scales. The real idea for quantum mechanics, that measurement affects a system, and it starts playing very fast and loose with it. If our observation, the person doing the observing, is affecting things, and that idea was really appealing to people who already had a metaphysical bent, so they just took it and ran with it without really caring much about whether or not it was demonstrably true.
Thing is that they've already been doing like tons of experiments on this stuff. Like, isn't there a random number generator where people's focus does alter those numbers? And I actually had somebody in the comments before talk about different experiments that sports fans have done. And there's been large-scale experiments that have been playing with this, maybe not to the satisfaction of many other, larger academics would say, because, like, who really wants to take this type of study on? Most people are not dumping money into psi study. And I also believe that it's something that needs to be done longer term. It can't be done shorter term. It's something that needs to be grown. Like, you need to grow the neurons in your brain to be able to complete those different psi things.
And as near as we can tell, it just isn't. There's nothing special about it being a person that's the observer.
At the end of the day, I do believe we're here because of what would be emergent systems as well. Just like the sim, you have simple things, you keep multiplying them, and then you multiply on top of that, things become more complex, and then you have emergent systems. And then what I'm trying to relay is that if you fold this on top of your brain and your chemistry and your different neural networks, who is to say that if you do not apply the same trainings over and over again and add novelty in different ways while you're doing these trainings, that you can't build the neural networks in your brain to potentially do some of these things that we have been discussing?
Geiger counter doesn't need a mind or a consciousness or, the magical power of thoughts to take a measurement.
I understand what he's saying, but for me, it's anything that causes a disruption. The sim doesn't want you to see, whether you put a Geiger counter in front of it, whether you put a human in front of it.
It's not thinking about the cat or praying that the cat is alive that alters.
Any instance of you trying to measure something, it's going to keep evading you.
High school. Here's why. All different research out there, like Barbara Fredrickson's work on positive upward spirals, that suggests that positive emotions can kind of nudge people toward greater emotional well-being, which is weighed by one of its big problems. It's essentially an elaborate form of pure luck mixed with hard work. How convenient to reframe that luck as virtue. I'm here because my thoughts were pure. Feels chaotic and unreliable. We want to believe that we're in control of our lives. If there is somebody out there who's wearing a suit and they have doctor in front of their name and, sure, it's a doctor of chiropractic from Life University, but still, if that person tells you that there's a secret.
Yeah, so he was like busting on Joe D here or whatever. And I get it. It's like you're looking up to this savior or God body. Of course, you can't do that. We need to know this in these communities. That's also a reason why my channel exists. It's, yeah, these things are here, but you have to use discernment and you have to know they're not quick fixes and that you need to do the work within yourself.
To reclaiming total control over your life, it's really easy to see why that's an attractive sales pitch. The law of attraction gives us a person to blame when things go wrong. Yeah, it's you. But comfort.
Well, it's like, don't do the whole victim mindset thing.
Somebody is in charge. And this reminds me a bit of a very well-documented psychological pattern. When a child is neglected or abused by a caregiver, they face what I can only call a horrible choice. They have two options. They can believe that their caregiver is unreliable or unsafe, and therefore the caregiver is the problem. Or they can think that the caregiver's behavior is a rational reaction to the child.
Yeah, I think this is really black and white thinking here. I think that there's lots of other possibilities that could be the case. You don't know if there's third parties involved here. You don't know if anything else has been going on. And you have to also understand the mirroring effect of the universe and our brain and neurons. Unfortunately, a lot of times children's and caregivers, whether that be parents or whoever else, mirror one another, and it's not that the child is creating purposely their own reality, but it's a mirroring effect between the parent and the child, and unless somebody breaks that, it becomes a shitty repetitious cycle where you could potentially fall into this thing where you're either A or B, blaming the caregiver or the child, but it's not that black and white. It never is. The parent is probably running off of a set of programs that they don't even realize that they're running off of, fear-based specific programs that they are then spreading onto the child, and the child is mirroring and potentially arising shitty situations from both the parent and the child, mirroring shitty situations. Who knows? That could be the case, but to say that it's split into these two specific outcomes or scenarios, I feel like that's like pigeonholing this, and that's not necessarily the case. Yeah, I don't see it like this at all. This is like this individual's opinion, and this is just a possibility and an endless amount of possibilities that could be the case here. And we have to explore them and not just say that, oh, it's either this or this. It's because it never is just this or this.
Distinction to be made here between some of the truly deranged law of attraction stuff. These are people who
Deranged.
literally manifest money.
Look. Oh my gosh. I guess I've been deranged. Listen, I never said I did mine within 24 hours. I did it over a period of time. Like, I had to actively think that I see money out of thin air. Like, I would, if I'm walking, I'd be like, I see money out of thin air. I get money out, like, just all the time. I experience money out of thin air. Just randomly, I would really be convinced that I experience money out of thin air. And I understand that that could be considered delusional, and I'm not trying to be delusional with you or have you have delusional thinking. I'm telling you to experiment this with yourself and test it for yourself. But if you don't believe it or you think it's a joke, I don't know, your subconscious might not let it work for you. And I'm not trying to say that to dissuade you or to be like, well, if it's not working, it's your fault. I really, really am not. But if you convince yourself, like truly try to believe that you can see money or experience money out of thin air, sometimes strange shit starts to happen. Now, these folks, like I know this guy, he's got a lot of money now because of this stuff. I will give him that. I've seen him on boats and stuff. He does give you like quick hits, like do the H2O pillow method. I've never personally done anything quite like that. It's just like get rich quick schemes, and usually this is something that is built up over time. I like to believe that the sim has been a long time in the building. It gets built every single day with systems upon systems upon systems that only get stronger and stronger. And this is how it works also too with these. You create momentum and you build. I'm not saying that you can't get money out of thin air. Some people, and you can't deny it, they'll go and they'll hit the lottery and quote unquote, is that like real? Is any of this really out of thin air? You would have to just straight up find it on the floor. And that happens too. Don't get me wrong. But people hit the lottery, people get inheritances, this, that, and the third, and one day they could do something like this and it could happen for them. I'm not saying that that's not a possibility, but this kind of stuff does seem more like a little bit out of control to where it seems very fantastical, and to just promise that everybody is going to hit $10,000 overnight by doing like an activation with some water. If it happens for you, fantastic, but it's not always going to happen for people quite like that, because if that was the case, everybody would be doing this all the time. People would have $10,000 out of thin air 24/7. Tax people will be crazy, right?
Sounds like crazy. Yeah.
Then on the other hand, people who coaching technique for athletes and for performers, I've done a lot of that myself.
Yeah, but again, you can take this so much further. I feel like we're just scratching the level here on certain things. We're taking like baby steps. We don't want to look at anything weird. We don't want to get crazy. We don't want to start getting nuts with the visualization. We only have to visualize for sports. That's it. Don't do it any place or if you're gonna do you can visualize there. If you're gonna take a test, you can visualize there. You can just no, man, you can visualize for anything in your life. If you want to have an experience, you visualize that experience that you want to have. This is not just something that you're like, yeah, the athletes are going to visualize winning. That is just like evidence in the scientific mind, quote unquote, because otherwise, what is the evidence? Suddenly you're saying that you believe in visualization, but only for athletes? Or that you only believe in visualization for somebody playing the piano or something. Like, no, this can be used, and it was meant to be used in every aspect. Nobody ever talks about the fact that many of these scientists pulled scientific inventions out of the hypnagogic state. They could have been in a daydream state. A lot of them were in the daydream state. Dali, I'm pretty sure Einstein used it. I know Tesla. There's so many of them. And they fell asleep and would get inventions, different equations, solutions, all kinds of stuff in the blueprints. Nobody talks about that, though. We ignore that. We don't talk about that strange side. Why wouldn't we investigate that? Because we're uncomfortable with it. We don't want to start looking into this. I don't know. Look, this guy was a dancer. Neville was a dancer. He probably visualizes while he was dancing, just like Neville did.
And that's kind of the mess of this whole thing. The problem with The Secret and the law of attraction isn't just that it attributes causation to
People abuse it. That's the problem. Just like everything else in life, people abuse it. They want it to happen in 2 seconds. They think that it's just something that's supposed to happen. They don't realize that, and we've talked about that, they're affirming or they're thinking that they're doing this, that, and the third, and 90% of their thoughts are shitty thoughts.
I don't know what the correlation is between people who believe in The Secret and people who think that vaccines cause autism, but I'd imagine that there's a lot of overlap.
That is some real freaking shade there, because that's not the case at all. I don't even know why he would make that correlation. Like, to me, you're just like, you're shading people. He's saying he doesn't understand the correlation between the two of them. So are people who believe that vaccines cause autism? Does he believe that they're, and it's like, what if it comes out that they could? Like, I don't, people are so definitive in some of the things that they choose to say and some of the stones that they choose to throw. It's kind of crazy.
And this kind of evidence agnostic approach then trains people to care about vibes and charisma more than reality.
No, if you don't interpret the information right, you would. I don't.
People who
I don't care about vibes and whatever more than reality. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean.
think that way are exploitable. And I don't think it's
Everybody's exploitable. It does not mean you need to use discernment in the streets for every avenue. I have another channel and I talk about all the things. There's so many things in the sim you can be exploited to. It's not just this avenue. There's every avenue that you can think of you can be exploited from. It's not just this.
related coincidence that Deepak recently showed up in the Epstein files.
Yeah, that was ugly. I don't know about all that. That's terrible.
But cute girls are real.
That's ugly, and I hope that that's not true.
Did you find me?
And I don't care about Chopra. Like, I don't listen to that man like that, but that's disheartening. No, you should never move against reasonable standards of evidence. I've never suggested that. If anything, I always try to produce more and more evidence. And in all reality, if you have this inner knowing, evidence don't mean shit to you because you just know. Like, you're like, no. But I got evidence out my whatever.
Magical thinking.
And I have magical thinking. I like both. How about that? Can a girl have both?
As an authority figure. And then to convince
Can a girl have magic and science as one?
those susceptible people to give you money.
And I don't need you to give me any money. It's okay.
People who exploit others and abuse their position in one domain tend to do it in other domains. And it is deeply ironic to me that it's the people who are most concerned.
What's deeply ironic to me is that there's actually this algorithmic drama farming on YouTube. So this individual has 169, I love 698 subscribers, and he just made this video. Do you know how much money this video is going to make him? I'll wait.
Brainwashing and thought control, and the government is out to get you, man.
And there it is. I do have brainwashing. I do have mind control. And I'm not necessarily that the government is out to get you, man. But if you don't stay woke, you will be duped. And do you think he's doing this for funsies? He's doing this also to make money. It is lucrative to talk about things that people in main society think is a joke. Whether or not he believes that it is, he is making money off of it now by this deep dive. And the longer people watch this and the more people hit subscribe on his channel, he could subsequently farm more views from his other videos.
You don't need excessively scientific quantum language to justify doing the basics. Taking action, building skills, asking for help, being a genuinely kind person, while accepting that life contains randomness and injustice, while we do what we can anyways.
See, my whole thing is like they try to make it seem like we can do these things and we can just take action. We can do, yeah, but is that fun always? That shit ain't fun. I love sitting in my bed and thinking about expanding my brain and neurons to be able to be the luckiest person. And I love to think about money out of thin air for fun. And I love to think about my best life. And on top of that, intertwining it with reality, I know I gotta do certain things, but I can live the double and triple life. I can have the 9 to 5 or whatever and live a completely normal avatar life like these people expect you to do. And then I can also have my trippy fun side of life and try to merge them together. And then maybe one day the trippy side will be running my life full time because I've expanded that into my new awareness where everything I experience is magical and fun and trippy and everything that people claim that it can't be.
That's the real
Take my fun away from me.
secret. It's just hard to to sell 1 million books based.
And I'm not trying to sell anybody nothing. I love running experiments in my head, and I hope that you do too. Do I have different things for consumption? Yeah, sure. But I don't try to push them. I don't really care if you do or you don't. I always know that I will be cared for and safe in some way. So I'm not creating this channel or this video to try to procure large sums of money. What I'm trying to do is just do my hobby and enjoy myself and have fun and laugh at the big cosmic joke of the fact that people can so quickly dismiss this and act like there's not the weird side, just so ready to dive into the boring, mundane side of life. I'm going to end this video here and just say I hope everybody enjoyed this reaction. It was meant to clear up some of the things that a lot of these other channels kind of bring up about these quantum videos. And I'll continue to talk about these different videos if they come up for me. I like challenging them. I like thinking deeply about them. And I enjoy people challenging this information because it is good to question everything. It's good to refresh the information. It's good to re-question everything at all times and not just take things for face value all the time. I'm down for taking criticism and critique, but I'm also open to suggesting that everything doesn't have to be black and white in life. There's a lot of gray and there's a lot of color. And when you see that, you may start to accept it and see more of the color instead of the black and white. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video. And until the next time, guys, I know you will all continue to manifest magic and resonate on your most aligned frequency. All right. Bye, guys.